Okay. All right, so I'm going to start with the pre-meeting welcome statement. Thank you so much for joining us. This begins the pre-meeting for the Rochester Preservation Board hearing on September 9th, 2020. During the pre-meeting, staff and board members review cases. There is no participation by applicants or the public. Following the conclusion of the pre-meeting, a public hearing will be held at 6 p.m. Here, all cases will be heard, applicants will present, and public comments submitted after staff reports were compiled will be read into the record. After the conclusion of the public hearing for each case, deliberations will follow. The board will take actions on cases that were heard at the public hearing. There is no participation by applicants or the public. So I guess we'll just get, excuse me, we will get right into it. So for case one, did anyone have any questions about this case? Things to clarify?
No.
Pretty straightforward.
Okay. Case two.
So Chris, I had just one question. I mean, they're obviously neighbors of ours. My
60
only
Hawthorne
question-
Street, you're talking about?
Yes.
Okay.
It's basically our backyard goes to Hawthorne, so they're right behind us. I can actually see the house now. My question is, even as a neighbor, I can't see where the hot tub goes. It's in the backyard. Their backyard is private. Is this the sort of case that you could approve just by staff since it's in the backyard? I was just curious why it's coming to the full board.
No. So through staff reviews, administrative reviews, the only things we can review are things that are specifically prescribed in the preservation design guidelines. In this case, there is nothing in the preservation design guidelines that discuss accessory structures, and even items in the rear yard still have to come to the board. So while it sounds like you're saying in your mind, it doesn't seem like a very big request, we still have to follow that portion of what the code says because it's not in the bylaws. Now,
Okay.
in future conversations, when we talk about preservation design guidelines, those are things to think about. And I would urge everyone to start thinking about those sort of cases that are coming and, you know, what changes we want to see down the line, because those are things that we'll hopefully be working on soon.
Chris, if this had been an air conditioner, is that in the preservation guidelines? Is something the staff can do?
No, actually, the code specifically talks about air conditioners too.
Okay,
so that's not in, and yeah, so it's not in the preservation guidelines, and the code also talks about the treatment of air conditioners in the preservation district. So
okay, I'll withdraw my question. I just thought
Okay.
there was some category of item in backyards that you guys dealt with and that we talked about that previously.
So there is an exemption item under 120-194A5F, I believe, is the code section, which talks about non-permanent improvements to the rear yard. Really what that's talking about, in the way that we've looked at it in the past, is something like sculpture in a garden, or like playground equipment. Something like that would be looked at as an exemption.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep. Any other questions for case two? Okay, we will move on to case number 3. So this is 498 West Main. It has come to us previously. You'll see that it's for an amendment of the decision. It is coming in as a new case because it is materially different than the previous applications. Anyone have questions about this?
Well, I just want to make sure I know what in the hell I'm talking about, because this is where I got all confused the last time it came before us. Because when I'm looking at that, it looks to me now like it is the part above the mural that is going to be torn out. Is that what I'm to understand? When they say that the back part by Clark Alley, there's that strange mural that's there. And
So I'm going to bring up the plans and share my screen, so we can take a look at that.
because they have those same images there that I confused me because I thought we were talking about that scene along the alley and there was that garage door kind of a thing that I thought was the garage door in the Clark Alley the last time, and that was apparently not what I was looking at, and that was what confused me considerably.
Sounds like somebody's joined us. There's Tom Worth.
It's page 10. Yes.
Page 10.
Yeah. It's that one to the far left. Is that the alleyway garage door?
Correct.
Okay. And then, so what they're doing where there's that kind of rough and tumble addition that was put on, they want to rip that out and extend that building all the way to the alley. But the thing that's confusing is this keeps showing all this brickwork here. And so I don't know if they're replacing where the mural is or what's going on here.
Jim, I'll say I was also confused because I'm now looking at these three windows and then that little window above, and then I guess we'd call it a pitched roof, gable roof, I'm not sure. And I had trouble figuring out how does this relate to the existing structure, but I was also thinking these are questions I was expecting I would just ask them, because I agree with you, Jim, it is confusing.
Well, and that's why basically it looks to me like they're doing what I thought they were doing when they came before us the last time, but then apparently I was misreading all that box model that they created, and I felt rather foolish because I was so thoroughly confused. That was why I abstained in the end, because I really didn't quite understand what they were doing.
So the difference between the former application and this one, if we go to the plans, and we also have the approval in here, the prior approval, let's see. The difference is that the footprint is going to be exactly the same as where the current addition, second floor addition is. They are no longer, this was what you're seeing here on page 19 was what was previously approved. So this additional portion of that upper story is no longer part of the proposal. And instead, the proposal is just for a new addition over the existing footprint.
That helps, Chris. I actually appreciated you showing that side by side.
Yep.
Those are the same drawings, aren't they? 19 is on 9. Which I didn't understand the first time. I mean, the footprint, no, it doesn't change. It's the upper story where that
the footprint of the upper story. So what we're seeing here under the new proposal is only in the area of the existing addition. So if you went there and visited, sort of try to visualize, you're looking from the alley and you see that little shed roofed addition that's on the top now. This will fit over that exact same footprint.
Okay.
That's what the proposal is. Previously, they were proposing that, but also an additional expansion of the upper floor area. And that's what number 19 is showing you. Because that is what was previously approved by the board in the time that you abstained. See? This additional portion here?
Yes. But they also kept showing an open area, and I thought it was that open area where that indicated they were building over above where that garage door was. So
formerly, yes. So in the former application, that was that proposal. That was what they were proposing. They're no longer proposing that. That's why they're coming for an amendment and a revision of their application entirely.
Can I make a proposal that we don't even treat this as an amendment of the last application, because Riza presented that application so badly and confused so many of us, and that we just treat this as a new application and treat it on its merits in comparison to the existing conditions on the site. I just think that would be a lot less confusing than trying to record and go through all the steps on how we got to this, to just go with what they're proposing to put there as compared to the existing conditions.
I have no problem with that.
Are there any other questions for this case? Okay. So the next case is 95 Merriman Street. That is for the removal of a locust tree. Any questions for that case?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure I understand why they want to remove that tree. It's not really that close to the house, but maybe it's close enough.
So the application reads that it's damaging the sidewalk and the driveway, not the house.
All right. I'm not that much resistant to it that I'm going to make a federal case out of it.
Anyone else? Okay, so 94 Barrington. This one was an enforcement because the applicant had removed previously some pavement and some brick pavers in the rear yard, and slightly expanded the patio area in the back and the walkway area. So now we have the new walkway area, which is delineated here, and the patio, which is slightly expanded. And then some images of it there. Any questions about this case?
So Chris, I do have a question, but Kirsten just wrote and she needs our Zoom link, so I'm just going to forward it to her.
Yeah, I
So-
think that, so Anna's, okay, so Anna noted she doesn't have the email, so yes, if you could go ahead and forward that to her, that would be fantastic. I did send out 2 links yesterday, and I was afraid this might happen.
So my question is this, number one, I don't love stamped concrete and don't think it's historically appropriate, but I recognize it's part of our current guidelines and I need to respect our current guidelines. So number one, Chris, I'm just hoping that we can just all make a mental note to discuss that when we review changes to the guidelines in the future. But my question is, I don't love stamped concrete because it seems fake to me. It's neither like, it's concrete pretending to be something else. So I would rather just have plain concrete or have the other material. My question in this case is about color, where they say that, and we couldn't walk into the backyard, they say that the stamped concrete was colored to make it look like flagstone. And I'm wondering, that seems even worse to me than just stamping it, to stamp it and then dye it to make it look like flagstone. Do our guidelines say anything about that? Because I didn't see it. It just said stamped concrete is okay, period. Do we have anything about colored stamped concrete?
I agree with Gerald. I have to admit it's not to my taste, but I don't think my taste is really a standard here. So,
and yet, Jim, I agree and disagree with you. I mean, I think our taste does matter. It's part of our job on the board is to say what's architecturally appropriate. We're bound by our current guidelines, which say stamped concrete is okay. But do our guidelines bind our hands and force us to allow them to color the concrete?
well, then there's the other thing that we're forced in a situation of accepting what they've already done by legalizing it. And, they've gone to all this effort to put this in, and now all of a sudden there it is. And we're expected to approve it. And, this becomes an entirely different discussion than we would have had if they had come to us first. And that's when we could have gotten into a lot of the things you're referring to, Gerald.
Right.
This is probably a question for Tom, but I mean, I don't think we're bound to approve it if we don't think it's appropriate, right, Tom?
Yeah, I looked at the guidelines just now, and it says any one of, like about 8 different types of materials could be appropriate. It doesn't say that it's any of them have carte blanche, that you have to approve them if it's any one of those 8 things or whatever the number is. So I think that you do have the discretion to choose a material that's more appropriate, or to find that this isn't appropriate in this particular setting.
Personally, I think it looks like it really should be in a suburban setting as opposed to a city setting, but it's
Yeah,
just my
I agree.
personal opinion.
Yeah, so stamped concrete is currently part of our guidelines, so I felt bound by that, and I do think we should revisit it because I agree. It looks very suburban to me, including that crushed like white gravel or whatever, white stone, whatever it is in front of the house. But it's the color mixed with the concrete that I was especially wondering about.
So just to add to Tom's assessment of looking at the guidelines also do not address color. They're sort of silent about it. So that could be something that's also a consideration, obviously. And going along with what he was saying, anything is up for consideration.
Okay, thank you.
Kirsten, hello.
Hi, I had to reinstall. No idea. But thank
Sorry
you.
about that. I thought it may have been the link that I sent yesterday because I sent 2 different links and I was worried that
No,
something may
I
happen
had the
with
right
that.
one. I don't know.
Okay.
I'm here.
So we're on, and just to backtrack a little bit because we do have time. So do you have any comments? We're on case, we made it to case 5. Do you have any comments for any of the prior cases? Any questions or comments?
No on Church Street. Like I think I mentioned to you, the hot tub, you can't really get any context other than what they've sent. There doesn't seem to be many neighbors in the back anyway, so it may not even matter. Just so I understand, the West Main Street, the issue is that they found that the existing structure was structurally unsound. Is that why they're reworking the proposal?
That was the original, so from the original proposal, yes, that was part of the consideration, but they also wanted to have a more habitable space up there because the roof was kind of short and they wanted to have additional space in that studio.
Okay. No problem with the trees. And then I think what I just heard was, what authority do we have if within the design guidelines stamped concrete is allowed? So it seems to be where you guys were going with this. I know that I've sat on cases where regular pavement has been rejected in favor of stamped concrete. So I don't know.
On this board, Kirsten?
Not, sorry, it wasn't stamped. It was the Culver Road property that wanted the driveway in the front.
Right,
we
I
said
think
no.
concrete, I'm sorry, go on.
It was rejecting pavers for asphalt.
Yeah, no, concrete, like as I walk around our neighborhood, concrete's historically very appropriate. Like we have lots of driveways, lots of walkways that I think have always been concrete. It's even marked that way on our old blueprints. It's the stamped concrete that I'm asking about, and especially the color in this case.
Yeah.
Because they in fact explicitly say, we stamped it to make it look like flagstone. For me, as I look at historic houses, concrete is fine as long as it looks like concrete. Flagstone is fine as long as it looks like flagstone.
You don't like the
As long as it's
imitation.
flagstone. That was just my question. And then the color.
Yeah,
Something to discuss during the hearing.
right.
So the next case was case 6 for 1273 Park Avenue, the accessory shed and greenhouse structure. Questions, comments?
No questions, but
Chris?
I think it's a really cool project. I like it personally.
I do too. You know, I think it's a big improvement.
Yeah, Chris, I do too. And I hate to mention color again, but can you show the photograph of the project of the shed? That one there, because they said they were going to use the same colors as the house, which I think are like taupe and dark blue. And those colors are obviously not taupe and dark blue. So I just wanted, one of us should just confirm that these aren't the colors they're planning to work with. And that was the only thought I wanted to bring to this meeting.
I can understand that.
Unless my eyes are deceiving me, that's nothing at all like taupe and dark blue.
Yeah, that's been a clarification made at other meetings where sometimes I think the applicants, with either the quality of their printer or of the city's photocopying machines, it might lose something in the translation in terms of color.
Yeah, but I don't think it turns blue to red.
But color really isn't within our scope.
In the past, it has been within our
Yeah.
scope. If somebody is building something, if somebody's been putting in it, if somebody's building an addition or a secondary structure, we have in fact in the past weighed in on the colors and how that relates to the existing structure. I remember, for example, that balcony on those newish townhouses on East Avenue.
East Avenue, I do remember that.
So I think, or also on Douglas, when they built the carriage house, I think our practice has been not to comment on color unless it's either an addition or a new building that's interacting with an existing building.
Yeah, I agree with Gerald.
Tom, you're mute.
We don't care about color when we're painting an existing painted surface. That's not even subject to Pres Board review, but yeah, when you have a new structure and you're trying to make it appropriate, compatible with its surroundings, it makes sense to have some discretion about color.
Gotcha. Thank you.
So moving on to case 7 for 45 Oliver Street, were there any comments or questions regarding this case?
Yeah. I mean, it is one of those things where he didn't have time to get the arborist comment. Is this the one? Yeah, they want to remove that Chinese elm. And they're declaring a state of emergency that it has to be resolved, even though he couldn't get all the paperwork together. And has he submitted anything since the application was put in that would confirm that the tree is a danger?
No, the applicant came to me the Friday prior to the deadline stating that there was some issues with his basement structurally with some other work that they were doing on the interior, and that knowing that winter was coming, wanted to get in an application as soon as possible. I did recommend he get a letter from an arborist or landscape professional. He was not able to do so before the deadline.
But people sometimes do come to us during meetings with additional information that they didn't get into the application. And I just wondered if he was encouraged to have that evaluation done so that it could be submitted as a follow-up.
So I didn't encourage him to provide information that would be new information. So that would be something that's new information that I did not necessarily encourage him to provide.
I mean, he has photos of the damaged damaged basement and all the damage that it's done.
Any other questions, comments?
He wants to plant a dogwood in the same place. I'm not an arborist, but would a dogwood present the same problem over time?
My
That-
sense, and I'm not an
What
arborist either,
size?
Kirsten, is a dogwood's going to be, will be a much smaller tree even at maturity.
Yeah, I would think so too.
I would think so, but I don't know. Just wanted to make sure it was going in the same place. Because it is still pretty close to the house.
That could be a good question to ask. We could suggest relocating the new tree.
I don't think he should feel any pressure to be in the exact same spot.
Yeah, actually, Kirsten, I agree with you. Now that I'm looking to see where the existing tree is, I would not put another tree there.
No,
That's a pretty big tree though.
it is.
But I'd still pull the dogwood forward.
Yeah. Yeah, I just don't know why you'd want it there.
Closer to the sidewalk.
Hmm.
Okay. And that's all of our cases. So one last thing I want to do is go through and just see if everyone had visited the site. So what I'll do is I'll go through each case, and if you did not visit the site, just state that you have not visited the site. Case 1, 30 Church Street. All visited the site. Case 2, 60 Hawthorne Street. All visited the site. Case 3, 498 West Main Street. All visited the site. Was there anyone who didn't, I guess this is maybe a better way of doing it. Is there anyone who didn't visit any of the sites on record for tonight's hearing? Okay, so everyone visited all the sites. All right. Did anyone have any other business that they wanted to discuss?
So just to clarify, because Chris, you said this at the start of the meeting before Kirsten got here. It was a question I had, Kirsten. There are only going to be 5 of us tonight, so we still need 4 people for a decision.
Hmm.
Correct. So that 4 people is
That
a
is
quorum.
right. Yeah, you need a vote of a majority of the members of the board, not a majority of who's present.
Anything
So
else?
all
from-
5 of us need to say yay or nay?
No, 4.
4.
Well, 4 people need to say yay.
Hmm.
Yes, 4 people need to say yay. If 4 of us don't say yay, then it wouldn't pass.
Got it.
4 of the 7 board members is a quorum. So you need at least the quorum vote, which is 4 sitting members.
So if you didn't get 4 either way, either approving or denying the application, it would be held over to the next meeting. Because it'd be ruled a no decision.
Okay. So that concludes the pre-meeting. We will reconvene at 6 p.m. for the public hearing. So if everyone wants to just maybe mute themselves, turn off their video, and come back